The Cardano CLI is a command line interface tool for interacting with the Cardano blockchain. It allows developers to perform various operations on the network, including creating and managing wallets, sending ADA, and submitting transactions to native scripts and smart contracts. In the first part of this video series, we'll learn how to use the Cardano CLI to build, sign, and submit a simple transaction from Alice to Bob. Let's get started by generating keys and addresses. The code that we're going to see on this video is available on GitHub. Here on the left, I have already cloned this repository, and as you can see, we have the same files that are available on the right. The first file that we're going to use is generate keys and address. Running this script will generate the proper files such as the verification key, the signing key, and the address for each one of the wallets that we're going to be working with. We're going to generate one for Alice, one for Bob, one for Charlie, and one for Daisy. We now have all the necessary files to create and submit transactions on behalf of each one of these people. And in order to be able to submit transactions using the Cardano CLI, we must have a local node running. In this case, I have one, and we can query the node with Cardano query tip. This is the pre-prod testnet, so testnet magic 1. And running this command will return the current state of the network as our node sees it. In this case, it's 100% synced with the network. It is right now epoch 53. The other command that we'll be running quite frequently is the command to query the balance of a specific address. To do that, we're going to do Cardano CLI query UTXO --address, and then we'll give it the address that we want to run the query for. In this case, it's going to be wallets alice.address, and again, testnet magic 1. This results in 0 UTXOs under Alice's address. The same thing for Bob. Nothing for Charlie, and nothing for Daisy. If you're finding this video helpful so far, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Next step, we're going to fund Alice's wallet. Cardano's testnet provides a faucet for us to request test ADA. You can visit this URL and then scroll down, and in this particular scenario, we are using the pre-prod testnet. Then you paste your address over here and then click the CAPTCHA, request funds, and you should be receiving a substantial amount of test ADA in your test wallet so that you can experiment with. However, I highly recommend that you do this the less frequent as possible, because just like mainnet, there is a limited amount of test ADA that will ever be issued, and we don't want to drain the testnet faucet faster than it should be drained. For this reason, I have a wallet that I keep around just for testing purposes, and this is the wallet that we are going to be using to fund Alice's address. So we'll click send, and then we will look at Alice's address, then use that as the destination, and let's send Alice 100 ADA. Put in my password. Transaction submitted. And while we wait for the transaction to go through, we can actually use Alice's address, this specific address, on the pre-prod block explorer to know when the transaction went through. Yep, there it is. Transaction went through 42 seconds ago, and this specific address has 100 ADA of balance. So if we query Alice's address, we will see that amount reflected with the corresponding UTXO. So first step is done. We have successfully funded our wallet. Next, we're going to see how to send ADA from Alice to Bob. Let's close this tab. Check Bob's address, make sure that no ADA is there. And then I'm going to open this project on my text editor and go to this file called Simple Send. This file is a convenience script to run 3 commands. First one is cardano-cli transaction build, which builds the transaction that will reflect the spending of this UTXO from Alice to Bob with the amount that we specify as an argument. So let's go over these options one at a time. First is the Testnet magic. The number 1 indicates we're using the pre-prod test network as opposed to the preview network, which uses a different number. The second option, TXIN, indicates the UTXO that will be spent in this transaction. TXOut is the transaction output information. This argument takes the destination address followed by the value in Lovelace. Lovelace is the subunit for ADA as defined in the protocol specs. 1 ADA equals 1 million Lovelaces, so we must do the conversion using the amount in ADA variable, which will be set earlier in the script, as we'll see in just a second. And then we have change address, which, as the name says, receives the remainder of the assets that were in the original UTXO and which were not sent to the destination address. The end result of running this transaction build command is stored on the argument that is passed to the out file option. The same file is then used as the input of the transaction sign command, which takes the same testnet magic number and the signing key file for the owner of the UTXO being used in the previous command. The result of running this command is then used as an argument to the transaction submit command, which simply takes that file as well as the testnet magic number. Using that same file, we can query the node to figure out what the transaction number is so we can use it later and query for its status using a block explorer. Now let's go ahead and fill out these variables here at the top. So let's query Alice's address to figure out what the UTXO is which will be spent from. This case is this hash followed by the 0 index. Next is the amount of ADA that we want to send to the destination address. In this case is going to be 10 ADA. Now the destination address, which will be wallets/Bob address. Next, we want Alice's address so she can receive the change from this transaction. So wallets, Alice address. And finally, Alice's signing key, which will be used to sign the transaction. Cool. With this in place, before we run this command, let's query Bob's wallet and make sure that there are no UTXOs under Bob's wallet. Now we can run this and we have built the transaction, signed the transaction, and successfully submitted the transaction to the network. This is the transaction ID. Let's go ahead and use it to track the status of this transaction on the pre-prod block explorer. As you can see, it was submitted and processed 18 seconds ago. And if we look at the addresses involved in this transaction, we'll see that the first one is Alice's address, which initially had 100 ADA, which then made a transfer of 10 ADA to Bob's address and received the change 89.83. And the reason why this is not exactly 90 is because every transaction in the network pays a fee. And the fee for this transaction was 0.17 ADA. Now, if we go back and query Bob's address, we'll see that Bob now has exactly 10 ADA, and Alice now has 89.8 ADA. So we successfully made a transaction from Alice to Bob using the Cardano-cli. On the next video in this series, we're going to learn how to make a transfer from Alice to both Bob and Charlie in the same transaction. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions, drop us a line in the comment section below. We would greatly appreciate it if you delegated your ADA to Jungle Stake Pool to support our work and help more people work with Cardano.